Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to talk about OpenAI. Now it is very unlikely that you guys haven't heard of the OpenAI. If not, you guys would have definitely heard about ChatGPT, which is again a product from OpenAI. One common question which I was receiving is that can we integrate the OpenAI with our existing automation? When I talk about the existing automation, these are the processes which we have built with the help of robotics process automation, and we are using UiPath as a tool. So the answer to that question is yes, you can definitely integrate the OpenAI with your existing automation, or you can create new automation building the OpenAI. So that is what we are going to see today. This would be our agenda. I am going to introduce you to OpenAI in case you are new to this OpenAI thing. I am going to show you a popular product of OpenAI which is called ChatGPT and some of its capabilities. To do the integration, I have selected a model which is called spelling corrector model. Again, that is from OpenAI itself. I am going to show you how you can use the API, where to get the keys, and how do you integrate the same in UiPath Studio. So to build all of this, I have created a small use case. That small use case I am going to present you, and if you are interested, you can follow along this tutorial. So at the end of this video, you would have a OpenAI model integrated with your UiPath Studio. So the idea is once you are able to deploy and connect any one of the model, you guys would have the capability to work on the other model as well, and you can create your own use cases. With this, I would quickly like to show a demonstration that what exactly are we going to build today. Let's have a quick demonstration of the model. So this is the input file where you can see that for each and every line I am having some spelling mistakes, right? What I have done is, as an input to the RPA, I have put all these feedbacks, or I would say statements, to a Excel file. So the idea is, with the help of RPA, we are going to read this input Excel. We are going to pass this as an input, and as an output, I am expecting the corrected spelling mistakes from the model, right? Let's see that in action. I'll go back to my UiPath Studio. I'll go here and I simply say run the file. The robot has started, and as you can see, with the execution, all these text is now getting passed to the OpenAI model, and we are getting the details back to the Excel. So this would be the use case which we would be building in a step-by-step manner. Don't worry if you don't understand any of this. I am going to build this from a scratch. You guys can also follow along with me, and at the end you would also have the same use case available with you. Okay, so that was a quick demonstration of the model which we are going to utilize today. Before directly jumping to the code, I quickly want to tell you guys about this OpenAI thing. So OpenAI is a research organization that aims to develop and promote the user-friendly AI. It conducts research in variety of areas that includes ML, computer vision, LLP, and robotics. OpenAI also releases some open source tools and models so that can be easily used by the developers and the researchers, right? Some of the OpenAI notable projects are GPT-3 language model, the OpenAI Gym platform, the reinforcement learning model, and the RoboSumo, which is used in research in the robotic manipulation. To know more about the OpenAI, you just have to visit this URL, which is called openai.com. I have put the URL in the description for your reference. Coming back to my presentation, next I want to quickly talk about the ChatGPT. This is an OpenAI trained model which is called ChatGPT, which interacts in a conversational way. That means that you can interact this AI in a pretty faster way, right? The dialogue format make it possible for ChatGPT to answer, and you can also ask the follow-up questions as well, right? It is a sibling of the Instruct GPT, which was a previous model, right? You can simply go to the openai.com and you would have something which is called introducing ChatGPT. Click on this. You need to be signed in here, and this is how the ChatGPT interface look like. You have some of the examples which are already given here, but it is very powerful. Say for example, introduce RPA to let's say 5 years old. Okay, now if you notice here, ChatGPT is giving the introduction of RPA as if it is explaining it to a 5 years old. Okay, you can use it for anything. For example, some of my previous searches are SQL Server clause explanation. How do you explain the clauses in SQL Server, right? So all these options are available here. Not only this, you can actually chat in a conversational way, such as behave as an RPA interviewer. Okay, WER. Now you can see that ChatGPT is giving you option as the RPA interviewer will ask, right? Can you tell something about your project? What is the difference between a process automation, RPA automation, right? You can actually ask the ChatGPT that how it can help you. So you can simply write how ChatGPT can help me, and it will actually go and tell you what are all the capabilities in which ChatGPT can help you. Now as you can see that we are getting a lot of responses that how it can actually help you in a lot of tasks, right? So I'll click on stop generating. That will stop the responses. To know more about the ChatGPT, you can simply visit to OpenAI /blog and the ChatGPT. I have put this link as well in the description for a reference, and this will give you all the complete details about the model. Okay, so that was about a quick introduction about the OpenAI and the ChatGPT. Now let's try to jump to the section of APIs. Okay, if you go to the website called openai.com, which we have seen, you would see a button which says API at the top. Just click on that button API and it should navigate you to openai.com/API. So API stand for application programming interface, which allow you to programmatically access all of the models. Okay, to get started, as you can see, they have given a lot of information about the API here, that what you can do, what are the limitation, what can be done, what is possible, and all the details are available. So to get started with the OpenAI API thing, you just simply have to come to this page and click on this button which says get started. Okay, once you click on this button, it will navigate you to one authentication page. In this page, you have to provide your email address, or you can simply use any of the Google or the Microsoft account. I simply click on this guy which says continue with Google, and that should authenticate my Gmail ID, as you can see at the top, and it will get you inside this API dashboard kind of thing. Okay, once you are inside this, the first thing is that you need to know that which all APIs are available here. Okay, so to do that, you have to simply go to the top and you click on this guy which says documentation. When you click on the documentation, this has the complete detail about the API whichever you require, starting from the introduction to the guides. For all the models are available here, right? So I simply go to the left side menu and you will see here there is something which is called API reference, and I click on this one which says introduction. Okay, so this will give you the information about the API. Okay, first thing first, whenever we have to use an API from the OpenAI, you have to authenticate yourself. Okay, that means that you have to generate a secret API key for yourself that will allow your HTTP request to communicate with the OpenAI. Okay, so that is what is mentioned in this document in the authentication section, that you have to go to the API key page and you have to generate a API key for yourself. Okay, so your authorization, your API key is something which you have to generate for yourself. How you can do that? You can simply click on this one which says visit your API keys, or you simply come to the top here in the personal and click on this button which says view API key. Okay, both of them will navigate to the same page. I'll right click on this and I'll say open in new tab. Okay, now you would notice that it will come here in the API key. The same menu will open if you go here and click on this guy which says view API key. Okay, once you come in the API key section, you would notice that you have something here which is called the secret key. So this is the secret key which will allow you to connect to the OpenAI. For you, if you are coming here for the first time, you would not see something like this. I have already created the key here, so I am seeing this, but don't worry, we are going to again create a new one. So all you have to do is just come here and click on this button which says create new secret key. Okay, and what would happen? It will automatically generate a key for you. Okay, one thing to remember here is that you need to copy this key. Okay, because if once you click OK, you won't be able to get this key again. That is what the error message says. Okay, this information message, right? So what you have to do is just copy this key, okay, and paste it in some different place, maybe in a notepad file, in a word file, which you can refer later on. Okay, so this is my API key which I have got it from here, and I simply click OK. Today is 19th of January, so this is the API key which is available, right? I have once created for the old one, so I can delete that as well, right? So till this point you would have created a secret key and that would be available here, and you would have copy pasted it at a different location. If you forgot to do that, just again create it and delete the existing one. Okay, so this is how you get the API key. Coming back to the documentation, for the authentication we require the API key. We have got the API key. Once I have all of these details, here you can see if you are trying to use it with the help of Node.js, Python, curl, these are all the syntaxes which are available. Okay, making request is that I want to call the API, but to call the API you would require these things, right? It says that whenever you are making a request to this model, completion model, your content type should be application/JSON. The authorization is your API key which you have just copied, and then you have to give it in this format. Okay, say this is a test temperature max token, right? And this way it is showing you all the models which are available, right? So we have retrieval models, we have completion model, which means if you see on the right hand side, this is showing you that what would be the input and what would be the output. Okay, so it says that this is an example request with these parameters. Da Vinci 003 say this is a test and this is your response, which is this is indeed a test, right? So this is the format of input which you have to give to the model if you are using this model, completion model. Okay, similar to the completion model, if you just come down, you would see there is something which is called edits model as well, right? So this page actually demonstrates you everything. It has given in very good documentation here. So right, let's say this one, create edit. So as an input you have given this one, what day of the week is it, and in the instruction you have told the model to fix the spelling mistakes. Now the fix the spelling mistake, this has been rectified in the responses like this, right? And this is the same model which I have used when I was giving you the demonstration, right? So the model which I have used was this guy, text Da Vinci edit 001. This is the model name, this is the input, and this is the instruction. And to execute this you require the API key. Okay, but whatever you see here, this is in a Python format which you have given, right? My objective is to use the same thing in UiPath. So how can I do that? Okay, so till this point I hope you guys understand that where you could find all these details. I have shown you for this one. Once you understand this, you can actually go and try all of this. There are a lot of models available. Okay, so we'll stick to this guy which is the edit one, this one, create API edits, right? So the link I have posted all these links in the description. You can directly copy paste as well, right? So I hope till this point we are clear. So this should be our input model and this would be our response. Okay. Whenever we are working on API, before we implement it on any of the solution, be it a UiPath solution, be it a .NET, Java, or any other technology for that matter, it is important to test the API and validate whether the keys are working, the model is working, and the other details, right? So now I am quickly going to teach you how you can actually go and validate the APIs. Okay, so we can always test the APIs online. So for that you simply have to go to this website, which is called postman.com. Okay, postman.com is a website where you can actually go and test your APIs. So this is how the Postman web interface would look like. This also has a desktop application. You can actually go and install this as an application on your laptop or the computer, or you can directly use the web interface as well. Okay, so here you simply have to go to the workspaces. I have already created a workspaces for myself, so it is available here. You have to create your new workspaces and just navigate to that workspace which you have created. Okay, now this is a place where we can actually test our API. Now to test the API, so as you can see, I have previously tested all these APIs here. So for you, it would be absolutely blank. You simply have to go here and click on this one which says new. Okay, and then it is going to ask you which is the thing you want to try. Okay, I want to go and try the HTTP request. It is asking me that provide the request URL. Okay, so now again going back to our API reference document. If you remember here, I am going to use this one, and this is your URL for the API. Copy this, take it back here. Okay, now what is the next thing? The next thing is we want to authenticate it with the help of the API key which we have generated. So you just go back here, go to this button which says authorization. In the authorization, you have to select this one which is auth 2.0, which is for the tokens. Okay, if you select auth 1.0, it is going to ask you all these things, right? So I'm going to go here and I select auth 2.0, and this token is now the same thing which you have copy pasted, right? So just copy this, paste it here. So I have provided the API key, I have provided the authorization. In the headers, I have to specify what exactly would be my content type, right? So I'll go here and I write content type. I am expecting the response in the form of a JSON, right? So just like this. Okay, so I have selected the API. I have done the authentication. In the header, I am telling that my content type is of the application / JSON. Then comes the important bit, which is the body. Okay, in the body, you have to actually specify the input, that what exactly would be the input, right? So if you see here in this documentation, it was telling me that when you have to use this, this should be your parameters thing. This is nothing but your body, right? So I'll just go and click on this button which says copy, take it to the API, click on this button which says raw and paste it here. Okay, one important thing which you have to make sure here is that what type of request you are making. Again, go back to the API reference and you would notice that this is a post type of request, right? So I'll change this to post. Once everything is done, I can see that there is an extra comma. I'll remove this and I'll click on this button which says send. Now it is sending this request and you can see that this has given me a status code of 200, which means that the request was successful to that model, right? So if you notice here, what I have done here, I have just used the API of OpenAI with the help of Postman. I was able to use it with Postman, so we can use it with any other technology as well. Okay, now let's try to change something here. Okay, so this is the instruction which says fix the spelling mistake, and this was the input. Now to test this, let me quickly go and change this input here. Okay, so if you notice here, I have given a text which says subscribe to the channel, but the spelling of subscribe is incorrect, and I'm telling the model to fix the spelling mistakes, right? I'll go and hit the send button, and you would notice that the model has corrected the text for me. Okay, so this was the same model which actually I was using in this input, right? Whatever input I was giving, let's say this one, the same was getting passed to this input here like this. It was using the same authentication, the header, calling this model, and whatever the output I was getting, the same output, see, the same output I was actually pasting in this one, right? So this is how you actually test the APIs. This is not only restricted to the OpenAI, you can use it to test any of the APIs which are available. Okay, so I hope till this point you guys are able to follow along. This is a page where you can actually go and try the other models as well, but the thing is that it is using your authentication key which you have got from the API section of the OpenAI. Okay, so till this point I think we are good. Let's move forward now to go and implement the same thing in the UiPath Studio. Okay, I am back in my UiPath Studio. So the first thing is I'll quickly go here and click on this guy which says process. Okay, I'm going to call this process as ChatGPT API. I'll hit underscore here and I hit create. Okay, once the solution is ready, I'll go here and I click on this button which says open the main workflow. Okay, first thing first, whenever we have to work on the APIs, we require an activity which is called HTTP request, right? So you'll go to the project and in the dependencies, you have to add a dependency which is called the web API. Okay, so go to the dependencies, click on this guy which says all packages and search here web API. Okay, so once you are here, you simply have to go and click on this button which says uipath.webapi.activities and click on this button which says install. Click on save and this would install the web API activities in our project, and that will give me activities so that we can actually go and hit the APIs, right? The activity which we are going to use is called the HTTP request. With this package, you also get an option to call the JSON, REST, SOAP and the XML as well. Okay, so as you can see, the HTTP web API activity is available here. Now if I go to the activity here and if I search for here HTTP, you would see inside the app integration web, I am getting something which is called HTTP request, right? I'll drag and drop it here, and this is the activity which is responsible for connecting to the APIs. Okay, I'll go back to my browser, and if you remember, this was our API key, this was our API references. So the same thing, we have to just copy this, and the method was post. Okay, I'll go back to my UiPath Studio here. In the request builder, this is your endpoint. Okay, the request method would be now post. Okay, in the authentication, by default it is selected to none. Okay, so this is the place you have to select the same thing. Remember, we have the access token with us, and this is the same access token which you have got from the API key. So I have kept it in the notepad, copy it, go back to the automation and paste it here. Now if you remember, when I was testing this API in the Postman, there was a section of header where I have put that the content type should be application JSON, right? So the same thing you have to do it in this activity as well. Okay, in the parameters, go to the headers, here pass the value as content type, and whatever you want to be the header type, that will simply come in this activity, right? So I'll copy this, go back to your automation and pass it here. Okay, so I am telling UiPath that this is your content type and it is application/JSON. Okay, now these are the only detail which I have to provide in this wizard. Okay, once this is completely done, you have to simply click on this button which says OK. Okay, now you might be thinking you never passed the information such as which is the model, what is the input, and what is the instruction. All this information is passed in the body. Okay, so this I have already validated in the Postman that this information has to be passed in the body. Okay, so if I go back to my UiPath Studio now, in this I go to the properties. So you would notice that the display name, everything is available here. I have got the token here, and you have an option which is called the body option, which is of type string. Right now, this complete thing, whatever you are getting in the Open API, this complete thing has to be converted in a string format, and that information has to be passed here. Now to convert this input to a single line, one way is that you copy and paste in a notepad and then you make a single string, right? I am going to show you an easy way, and if you like that way, you have to comment me in the comment box that yes, that was helpful. Okay, so you can simply go to Google and you can something like convert to a single string. Okay, I'll hit enter, and this was the website I have already used, online multi-line to single line converter. This is the tools.knowledgevaults.com. You have a lot of websites available, right? I'll go to the first one, and you could see here you just have to pass the input here, and this website will give you a single line. Okay, so I'll go to my OpenAI and copy this, take it to this website and click on convert, and that's it. You have got this complete thing into a single line. Okay, if this was helpful, just let me know in the comments. Okay, now once you have got this, just copy this complete thing, take it back to your HTTP request, go back to the body, and you have to paste the same thing in the body like this. Okay, you would notice that you are getting some error because it is not able to close this properly. It has appended everything in the single quotes, right? One quick way of fixing is that just copy this double quote, Control C, and I'll hit Control plus F. This is a new feature which we have got in 2022.10, where you can easily replace the value directly in this text editor, right? So no need to take it to the notepad, do the manipulation. Everything can be done right itself in this activity. Complete dedicated video on 2022.10 is available on the channel. The link is available in the description. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to click on this button, and I want to replace the single one with the double ones, and I simply hit replace all and OK. Right now you would notice that all the values are now in the double quotes. Right now the last bit which is remaining is to put this complete thing in double quotes. So I'll start a double quote and I'll end the double quote as well here. I'll hit OK, and that way you would notice that you were successfully able to convert the body format from this to a single liner. Now why we have converted it to the single liner? Because this activity was expecting the input in a form of a string. Okay, now this looks good to me. I'll do a Control plus S, and that should save this activity. Okay, now what we have done till this point, a quick recap. I went to this activity which is called configure. I provided the endpoint here, selected the method as post, content type was selected to application JSON, right? And I provided my access token. Okay, and I hit OK. Now I have to provide the body. So the body is available in the options panel here, and it was available in a string format, right? So that string format I converted directly with the help of this website. Okay. Now once this is done, the output of this thing would be a response, and it will give you two things. One is the response status and other is the response content, right? If you remember from our Postman thing, when I was working this in the Postman, you would notice that I was getting this thing. So this is your status, which is 200, and whatever you are getting here, this is your actual response, right? So I am interested in both of these things, right? So in your UiPath, you simply have to go here and click on this guy, which is response status. I'll hit Ctrl+K and I will call this as status. In the response content, I'll hit Ctrl+K again and I say that this is my response. Okay, so that way, if I am able to successfully configure that in UiPath, I should be able to get the values populated in these two variables. Okay, so to test that, I'll quickly go here and I'll take a write line activity, drag and drop it here, and I'll just put a breakpoint here, run it in a debug mode. Okay, once the debugger is hit, I will quickly validate the output in the locals panel, right? So what we are expecting two things. One is the successful status, which is by 200, status code is equal to 200, and an output. Okay, so let's just wait for this execution. Okay, so as you can see, my automation is waiting at this breakpoint, and in the variables you could see that the status is 200, right? If I click on edit, you would notice that this is the 200 status and this one is the actual response from the API. Okay, I go and click on this button, which is response, and this is the same response which I was getting, right? In the text, your work ethics explanatory, whatever it has mentioned, this complete thing is coming in this object. Okay, now what I can do here is that to test it with some different value, you can actually, I'll hit stop here. Okay, so to test it with some other value, I'll quickly go back to this activity here, and in the body, I'll simply go to here. This everything looks good, so in here I will write something different text, right? So let's say welcome to the channel. Okay, now I have made this spelling incorrect and I'll hit OK, save this, and again I'll go and I say debug the file. This is just to test whether the model is working perfectly or not when I giving different inputs. Okay, so I'll again wait for this model to give me the response, and again the status is 200. Okay, and if I go to the response, which is here, click on this edit button, and yes, you could see that welcome to the channel, right? So the spelling is corrected, right? Because we have instructed the model to do so, right? So that means that now I am able to provide the input and I am also getting the response in this variable, which is the response here, right? Response status and response I am getting directly in these variables. Okay, now for me the next step would be to get this value out of that complete string, okay, which is the response status and the response content, right? So the response content is a type of string variable, right? So you can simply do a string manipulation and get that value out. And the next thing is, in the input, whichever we are passing in the body, right, this complete thing, this has to now come from the Excel. Okay, let's quickly configure that in this automation. Okay, so to do that, I hope till this point you guys understood and you are able to get the response from the API. Okay, now to implement this in a scale with this Excel, right, whichever we have kept, let me quickly open this Excel again. Okay, this is here, right? So I'll just delete these old values. Okay, so this is my blank Excel. the Excel name is input data. Okay, these are all the spellings which are incorrect, and here I am expecting the output, right? This is what I have shown in the demo. So I'll minimize this. First thing first, because it's an Excel, so I'm going to use an activity called Excel application scope. Okay, here I'm going to pass the workbook path, that where exactly your Excel is located. Okay, I have pasted the Excel in my D colon in the data, and this is the Excel. Okay, I'll hit open. I am using Excel application scope, so I have a privilege to keep that Excel open. In case you are using the workbook activities, you cannot keep this Excel open. Okay, to know more about the Excel automation, we have a dedicated playlist where we are explaining all these activities. Okay, so the link you would find in the descriptions again. Okay, now to again read the sheet from the Excel, I'll go here and I'll use an activity called read range. I'm using Excel, so I'll use this one, app integration Excel. Drag and drop it here. You have to provide the sheet name. The sheet name is data. Okay, I'm going to go here and write here data. Right now, one thing here guys, I am hard coding all these value here. Whenever you are doing a real-time automation, all of these values should be made configurable. Okay, so today we are testing API, so I'm hard coding everything, but a good practice, you should always store all these data in some place so that you can change the automation from outside. Okay, now read range, go to the properties, add headers. We do have headers, right? This is nothing but your header, right? This, all this information is nothing but your header in the column number 1. These are all your headers, right? So I'll go back again here. I say add headers, and the output of this activity is the data table. So I'll hit Control plus K, that is the shortcut, dt underscore input, and that will give me the data table. Now this complete data is available in a data table with me, this complete thing. Okay, to iterate and work on all the responses, you have to iterate the data. So to iterate, I'll simply go and use an activity called for each. Okay, so for each row in the data table, programming data table, for each row in data table, because I want to perform the operation in each and every row. Okay, so I'll drag and drop this right after this read range. What do you want to do in this one? After each and every row, where is your collection? My collection is in dt input, right? In this activity, I am telling UiPath that in the input variable, give me current row one by one. So this current row will give all these values from the Excel one by one, first, second, third, fourth, like this. Okay, so I'll simply go next and take an assign activity. In the assign activity, I'll create a input str underscore input. Okay, I am telling UiPath that you store this value in an input, right? So that we can directly pass it to the model. Now how I can get that value? So that is in current row, which is the first row. It is asking me what is the column name. In the double quotes, you have to pass the column name. You can pass the column number as well, right? So for me, the column name is input. Copy this. This should exactly match with whatever you are writing in the code. Go back here in the current row, pass this and write here dot to string. Okay, with that, what would happen? UiPath will go and give all these value one by one in the string input, right? Once you have got this value in the string input, what is the next thing? The next thing is this input has to be passed to the HTTP request, right? Here, if you remember, in the HTTP request in the body, right, we have hard coded this thing. Welcome to the channel. Every time I am hard coding this thing, right? But now simply I want to replace that with this input. So first I'll drag this HTTP request here inside the for each. Okay, and now you just have to pass the input str input to this one. How can we do that? It's absolutely simple. Click on this one, go to the properties. This is your text wherever you are doing the thing, right? And in here, this one, this should be replaced with the str input. Okay, so to replace that, I'll again put two double quotes, 2 plus, and here simply write str input. Okay, because I want to pass the input in the double quote, so the hard coded value was replaced with this thing which I have highlighted. Okay, I hope till this point you guys are able to follow along that I am simply changing the thing, right? You can always change this instruction also. You can pass this instruction also from the Excel or from any external sources that you can always modify. This model name you can always change, right? So for now I will just pass the input to this model, right? And remove this and I hit OK. So till this point what we have done, read the Excel, read the complete data, iterating the data one by one, whatever you get, store that in an input variable and pass that input variable to the body of the HTTP request. Okay, once you have passed this body, I have seen that I was getting the response in these two variables, response content and the status. The next thing for me is to get this data out of this response status. Okay, so before proceeding, I'll again go and take this right line here and let's try to execute this and see whether we are able to get the output in the response one by one or not. Okay, I'll quickly save this. I can keep this Excel open, right? And I'll just click on this guy which says debug the file. Okay, now what would happen when it is running the automation? This time the input should come from the Excel, okay, and the response from the model should be dynamic as per the input provided. Okay, we'll just wait for this robot to execute. Okay, so the robot has hit the breakpoint and in the str input, if you see, it says that great job, keep up the good work, where the spelling of the great is incorrect. Okay, the response status is 200, which means that it is successful, and in the response you could see that the spelling mistake has been corrected, right? So that means if I run it again, it is again going to give me that same thing, right? So this response is now available in the string. I'll copy this string, Control C, and paste it in the notepad. Okay, I am using a notepad++, so I'll go and open a blank notepad++, okay, which is here. I'll simply paste it. So this is the response which I am getting from the model. Now for me, I am only interested in this thing, right? Now there are multiple ways to get the data out of this output. We can always convert the string to a JSON, then we can use a key value pair, or we can simply use the string manipulation where I just simply get the output wherever it is saying this thing. Okay, so as of now it is available in the string, so I can quickly go and instruct UiPath that whatever you are getting after this one and between this, that is your text, right? So you can apply any of your logic to get the data out of it. So for me, I can quickly see that yes, if there is any data which is coming after this one, right, text, that means that is our actual information which we require. Okay, so I'll keep this thing for reference here, and with this I'm going to do a simple string manipulation to get this data out. Okay, and once I have this data, I'm going to simply paste it in the Excel file. Okay, so this is my input, sample input. I'll go back to my UiPath and I'll simply stop this. First let me go here and I'll take one more assign activity. Let me create a variable called str_text. Okay, once you have created this variable, I want to extract that information from the string variable, right? So this is my string variable which is available here, right? I have just duplicated it. My idea is I want to have this information from this string, right? The both of them are the same thing. So what I am instructing UiPath that first you go and delete everything which you get at this place from this string text, look for this thing in the complete text, remove everything before that. Once you are remaining, remove everything after the comma, like this. So that way you would be only remaining with the text you are interested in, right? You can apply any other thing here. You can convert it to JSON object, data table object, you can apply anything, right? But it's already available in string. So I can see that quickly we can do a string manipulation. Okay, now the same manipulation I am going to do here in the UiPath as well. Okay, I'll go here and I'm going to use a string such as response dot substring. Okay, now I want to cut the first part. Let's do it in the two parts so that you guys understand. In the first part, I am telling UiPath to remove everything wherever you find this thing, right? So I am going to go copy this, go back to my UiPath Studio, and to remove that, you simply have to type here response wherever this is the complete string dot index of, okay, find the index of the text whichever you want to remove. Okay, so that index of the text is going to be the same which you wanted to remove, right? So I'll simply go and pass this here. Now what UiPath will do, it will simply come to this part, it will find the index of this thing, and the next thing I will hit a plus and I'll tell that till the length of this complete thing, whatever you have pasted, dot length, okay, just cut short the string. I'll hit OK. Now let us see what do I get as an output here. Okay, let me see what has happened here. I think I have missed some colons. Yeah, it's good. Okay, now if you do not understand this thing, what I am going to do is I am going to first run this in a step-by-step manner so that you guys understand what I get in the str text. Okay, I'll quickly save this. The expression is simple. I have told UiPath that find the index of the text, go to the length and trim everything. How does this function? Let me save this, go here and I say debug the file. And now if you notice here in the str text, I am getting only this data and UiPath has chopped out everything before the input, right? So this was my actual response where I was getting this complete thing which we have pasted in this notepad. Once I executed that substring, UiPath actually went and removed everything and now I am only remaining with this data, which is this one. Now from this you simply have to get this thing. Okay, so my next objective would be to remove everything which is coming after comma. You can apply any logic for that matter, right? So I'll simply use this comma as the separator and I'll split it as per the comma, and whatever is remaining is our text, right? So I hope till this point you understand, and this input is available in the str text variable. I'll hit stop. Okay, and this is the input, right, which we are getting in str text. Now from this I am interested in this part. So I'll quickly go and take one more assign activity. You can always do everything in a single string as well, but it is good to debug, right? So I'll go here and I write create a new variable, control plus K, str underscore output, and this output would be having the value which we are going to write it in the Excel. Okay, so in the output what I am telling UiPath, you go to the str underscore text which is having this complete value now. Okay, and you can split it by comma also, right? Split the complete thing by a comma. The comma is a character, so I hit C, and I am interested in everything which is coming in the first part of the comma, right? So I will write here 0. This 0 means get me the first value once you split everything by comma, right? So what UiPath will do, it will go here, put a enter mark here, put a enter mark here, put a enter mark here, right? And whatever you get in the first thing, you simply store that in the str output. Once you have it in the str output, what you have to do is you have to simply write this back to the Excel, right? Now everything is happening in the Excel application scope, right? So to write the output back, I'll go here and I'll use an activity called write cell Excel. Okay, where is the sheet? The name of the sheet is data, right? So I'll go here and I'll write data. What is the value you want to write? So whatever you get in the output, you just write it back to the Excel, right? Now this part is important. Where is the cell? The cell is C2. Okay, whenever I'm working for the first record, it is C2, C3, C4, C5, C6 and so on, right? So if I have to write something here, this would be my C2. If I have to write something here, this would be my C3, right? So this 2 and 3 should be dynamic. In for each, you have a very good property in this guy, which is called index. Go to the properties. In the index, hit Control plus K and write index. Now what is this index? Whenever for each is iterating this, you can actually use this index. This is nothing but a property of the data table that it will give you the index number, and this index number always start from 0, right? If you hover here, it says that it's a 0 based index. I have a dedicated video where I'm explaining how to use this index, but to quickly summarize, this index will give all these row a number. So whenever it is getting the first row, it will have the number 0, and for the first row I have to write it in C2, right? But from the index I am getting 0, so it would be 0 plus 2, right? So the same thing, I am going to go here and in the right cell here, I'll just open it in the advanced editor. So A1, right? I don't want to write in the A1. I want to write in C, that is constant. Whatever number you are getting in the index, first time you will get 0. So 0 plus 2 will make it C2. When it comes for the next iteration, the index will increase to 1. So it will make it C3, C4 and so on. This is a string. So put dot to string and I hit OK. That's it, right? So now what would happen when you run this automation? Whatever you get in the output, that would be written in C2, C3, C5 and so on, right? I'll delete this write line activity from here, and this pretty much completes the automation for me. I'll go to my input and I'll just delete this thing from here, hit Control plus S. I'm using Excel application scope, so I'll keep it open, and let's go here and I say run the file. Okay, if everything is good, for each and every record it should hit the API and we should get the response back to the Excel. Okay, we'll just wait. Yeah, as you can see, the model is working. It is going to the API, getting us the results back from the API and writing it back to the Excel, right? For all of this, we have told the model to simply go and correct the spellings, right? So whatever spelling you have made incorrects are corrected by the model. So for the last one, we have gotten message, right, which says that there is a rate limit for the default text model whichever you are using, right? So that is the limitation which you get when you are using the free version of the API. There is a cap, there is a limit which is applied on this model, right? So after 20 minutes this limit will be gone and you would be able to execute, right? So I have been working for a long, so that's why this error, but I hope you understood the concept here. Okay, now there are some more things which I want you guys to show here in the API model, right? This is our API which we have been working, right? If you see here in the API documentation, which is this one, right? There are multiple things which you can use. Okay, so I have only used 3 inputs: model, input and instruction, but there are other things as well: temperature, top P, N, right? So N is something which is very useful. So if you remember here, if you see here, ideally your work ethic is explanatory, right? So let me just make it a simple statement, right? So let's say hello, my name is Mukesh, okay, and I make one spelling mistake here. Okay, I'll go here and I'll remove this, and I'll remove this also. Okay, now if I go and click on this one which says send, the same model which we have done with the help of UiPath, you would notice hello, my name is Mukesh, right? So this was corrected by the model for me. Okay, now if I simply add some more thing here, okay, let's say and I am from India, okay, and again I am clicking on this button which says send. Okay, now you would see here it is getting me some absurd result, right? Hello, my name is Mukesh Deepak and I am from India, right? The reason for that is that in the API it is telling me that the n is an integer value which that how many edits it can do. So by default the value is set to 1, so it has done this one, right? But when you have more than one spelling mistake, you can actually use this n. How do you use that? In your simple here, put a comma and I am going to specify n colon 3. Now the same input I will go and again execute. You would see hello, my name is Mukesh. In the second one, in the first tense it corrected the first spelling, and in the second one, hello, my name is Mukesh and I am from India. Okay, so that means that whenever you are using any API, you need to be more sure of what you wanted to do here. Okay, there is something which is called temperature, there is something which is called top P. These are the optional values, but this might actually go and significantly change your automation. Okay, so now if you have more than 3 mistakes, it will automatically going to correct, but more than that it might get you might get a weird result, right? So I hope you understood the concept of APIs. There is a lot to explore in this thing, and we have seen that how you can utilize the same in the UiPath Studio as well. Okay, so with this, I would like to wrap this video here. I hope now you understand how you can invoke the APIs, how you can make use of Postman, how you can make use of this online website, and you can try multiple things which are coming from the OpenAI, right? This is applicable to any of the APIs for that matter. Okay, if you have any more questions, feel free to drop me a note on the comments, or you can email me as well. Okay, so I would like to wrap this video here. I hope this was helpful. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please do subscribe to the channel, and happy automation.